Independent journalist Ramazan Yesergepov, detained in a Taras prison, said he is planning to start a hunger strike protesting against the inobservance of human rights in Kazakhstan. The protest will begin on July 6th, the president's birthday. Yesergepov has already appealed about the matter to the OSCE and is waiting for a response from the organization.
Yesergepov was sentenced to 3 years of imprisonment for divulging the secrets of the National Security Committee. He is also prohibited to engage in publishing or journalistic activities for 2 years. In his appeal to the OSCE, Yesergepov says, quote, "Being a prisoner in the country chairing the OSCE who has experienced all the delights of the Kazakh democracy, I ask you to take note of the human rights situation in Kazakhstan."
The hunger strike organized by 3 residents of the Pavlodar region against the police arbitrariness has actually brought some positive results. Representatives of the Internal Affairs Department said on Wednesday the criminal case against the protesters was instigated by a mistake and will be terminated.
The protesters were outraged by the police actions towards Yerganat Aubakirov, who claims the law enforcement agents had planted a gun on him and then used it to instigate a criminal case on the fact. The hunger strike in support of Aubakirov was then joined by another 2 of his friends. Later, the Internal Affairs Department representatives called all 3 men terrorism suspects. Now the police authorities say it was a mistake, dropping all of the charges. On Monday, the deputy head of the Internal Affairs Department said that hunger strikers were charged with terrorism. He was mistaken.
The judiciary system of Kazakhstan is also far from the international standards, say the activists of the United Human Rights Protection Center. They appealed to Kazakh Foreign Minister Kanat Saudabayev, who is also the OSCE chairman this year, urging to stop the arbitrariness of the courts. On Wednesday, activists came to the OSCE Tolerance Conference to give their letter to the official, but were intolerantly pushed out of the building.
A month ago, Kazakh public activists have already appealed to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, demanding to bring the national legislation on human rights and freedoms in line with international obligations of Kazakhstan. Another attempt was made on Wednesday. Many problematic mortgagers, interest holders, repatriates, disabled people, pensioners and many other categories of citizens cannot find justice in the courts of the country. The appeal was signed by 1,500 citizens who find their rights abused. Kanat Saudabayev, though, ignored the appeal for the second time now.
The Wednesday's event is a showcase of intolerance towards authorities' opponents, even though the conference is about tolerance. Only organizations and media affiliated with the government are allowed to participate.
International organization Freedom House has published a new report on its website reviewing states and transitions and indicating the decrease of democratic processes in Kazakhstan in the last 10 years.
The organization annually assesses 29 countries of the former Eastern Bloc on several criteria, including the electoral process, civil society, independence of mass media and corruption on the scale of 1 to 7, with the 7 indicating the worst condition. Kazakhstan's average marks exceed 6 points, with the controversial law on mass media and unfair trial of the famous human rights activist Evgeny Zhovtis severely affecting the rating.
On Wednesday, the Kazakh parliament officially wrapped up its work for the season. This past session will be undoubtedly remembered as the one with many laws about restrictions and bans. Find out more from the next report.
On Wednesday, the lower chamber parliamentarians adopted laws ratio was 107 to 103. Overall, I'm pleased with my performance during the session because we managed to complete the work on the bill on the use of subsurface resources. Irakli Likiev is an MP for only a year, but is already among the top 10 quoted politicians of Kazakhstan. Nigmatulin from Nuratan is 8th, the education minister is 9th, and I'm 10th. The deputy became famous for a number of banning initiatives. For example, he promotes an anti-abortion law, which he believes will positively reflect on the demographic situation. All of the houses in the country must feature infants' laughter and noise, which will lead to happy grandmas and grandpas. Thus, we should ban abortions. Yelikiev's latest idea can affect the entire adult population of the country. The MP proposed to prohibit the sale and consumption of alcohol during the 3 days prior to the approaching celebrations of the president's anniversary. Apparently, though, the deputy made a little exception for himself. I think champagne will be fine. Another MP, Sattok Pakbayev, has demanded to fine those who posted a video on the internet which allegedly portrays him involved in some love scene with a young woman. I request an official investigation to establish whether or not the video is real and who has fabricated it. In the meantime, the only citizen of the country left completely inviolable is the nation's leader. Deputies have granted the president the status 1.5 months ago. During its review in the parliament, deputies were avoiding endless questions of journalists, waiting in futile for the final decision of the head of state. Only now the issue is discussed more openly. I would like to note that the most important law we ever adopted, which was not signed by the president, was the law on the leader of nation. Kazakh citizens find themselves walking a fine line between permissive and prohibiting regulations, while their representatives in the legislative branch believe the country is doing just fine. Today, all of us feel that our lives are improving with each year. Deputies will return from vacations in September for the fall session of the parliament.
Go. A criminal story that shocked Kazakhstan 9 years ago, involving the death of the Turan Alemban cash guard and a shootout in the downtown Almaty, will become the plot of a new criminal drama to be released in Russia and Kazakhstan next year.
A detective movie based on a true story will be produced in Kazakhstan. The screenplay by the famous writer and director Yermek Tursunov closely follows the novel 7 Days in May, co-written by the Colonel Kurmanbek Artykbayev, who is also a prototype of the main character in the book. I and Ermek are getting along well, and I told him my entire story. Then he helped me to put my thoughts into a piece of literature. Of course, we argued about some moments, but in the end, we reached a consensus, although most of the time Ermek was right. The book talks about the events of May 2001. The shootout during robbery of Turan Alem Bank in the downtown Almaty led to the death of cash-in-transit guards and missing $300,000 in cash. The archived footage shows the final stage of the police operation to catch the criminals, who gathered at the cemetery to commemorate their fallen comrade. Agents had to exhume the body and install a recording device inside the grave. According to Muslim traditions, the criminals visited it on 7 days after the death of their friend. This story practically didn't require any additional writing. It was a complete and interesting piece from the start. When I was reading the case, I imagined scenes from The Heat with Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. The shooting will start in 2 weeks, with the premiere in Kazakhstan and Russia planned for February of 2011. Tursunov is emphasizing that 7 Days in May is mostly oriented towards the Russian audience, as Russians are funding the project. Kazakhfilm is not involved in the production, and interestingly, the director is even glad about this matter.
These were all the latest updates from Kazakhstan. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.